Hello friends and enemies, welcome back to Happy For Now. It's me, Isabel, here with my notebook again because I decided to do a new, a tag that kind of discussion video. I've talked about where my romance journey started before, but I don't feel like I've discussed a lot about like my reading history or journey as a reader. So I thought I'd do that. I found this tag from Nicole in her books where she just kind of discussed like her childhood reading, middle school, higher, like she's in the UK or in Australia, so her school years are a little different, but I thought it would be fun to just kind of do a chatty video today and talk about that because we also were discussing this in the romance booktubers group chat that we have going. And I just was like, man, I love how varied this is. And I think Mina Reads also just posted like a tier ranking of all her required reading in school. And it's weird. So I have lived, for my schooling years, I lived in, 5 different states for all of school. So between kindergarten to college graduation, I lived in 5 states. So I moved around a lot, and our required reading and things varied wildly by which school I was in. You know, I definitely grew up around readers. My mom is an avid reader. She was 100% reading like that first romance when it came out when she was a teenager, which is Flower in the Storm. It was Kathleen Woolwis. Anyways, she was reading that back in the day, and Stephen King and all these things. And so I grew up around her reading constantly, and with us constantly going to the library, of course. So I do think that like reading was kind of ingrained in me because of that in the best way. I just loved the library as a kid. Books, so Matilda, the BFG, those things I remember reading in elementary school, and like Ramona. I don't remember a ton from early middle school reading. I don't even really remember the accelerated reader program. I remember the pizza program where you would get a free personal pizza when you read. That was never an issue for me, but I don't remember a ton of the books I read. I wish like something like Goodreads was around back when I was little so that like my mom could have tracked it better. But that wasn't really a thing then, because we didn't, you know, we had dial-up internet on the AOL at the disc. Yeah, I remember that. I remember when my parents brought home our first computer and playing Jumpstart games on my computer and learning reading and other things through that. So I don't remember a ton of my early childhood reading or early elementary school, but Harry Potter started coming out when I was in 4th or 5th grade. I didn't double check the year, sorry. And that was perfect because I was right at Harry Potter's age almost. I think I was like a year younger than he was in the books. So I was able to follow his journey as I aged. So that's part of why I loved Harry Potter, and I remember reading those books. I remember we moved halfway through 5th grade to another state, and I remember us being on a vacation, and I think I was in middle school for this, or 5th grade. I was either in 5th or 6th, and Harry Potter was coming out, and we had to go find a bookstore that had it in stock so that I could read it. And then I remember staying up late in the hotel reading that book. I also was reading like R.L. Stine, and the series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket was also a favorite because I was reading Harry Potter and I needed other books. I don't feel like middle grade was quite as well defined when I was a kid, which led to like a lot of struggles with finding books to read, or books that I remember reading, I guess. So middle school started, I continued my Harry Potter and Lemony Snicket journey. I definitely started exploring more genres. I had friends who were reading like fantasy. I don't remember the book at all, but I remember I had a friend that lent me a fantasy book that I read, and just trying to find other things. The only like required reading in middle school I remember is Anne Frank. So we read The Diary of Anne Frank. That was a lot, but I think we were in 6th or 7th grade. And I also remember doing Greek myths, and that was really fun. So I remember kind of diving into those then. And otherwise middle school was really, honestly, I don't know. I know I was reading, I just don't know what I was reading. Then I started high school, and basically I stopped reading besides required reading, I feel like, and Harry Potter. I was too busy in the music scene and playing video games to read, watching anime. Yeah, I was a big nerd and like skateboarding and all these other things that I was doing in high school to read. But then Twilight started and I dove in to Twilight. And I remember I worked at GameStop when one of the Twilights came out, and I had a Books A Million at the end of the hall. So I was like, got off work and then I rushed over to go buy the new Twilight book so I could read it immediately. But I also, in high school, we had so much required reading. Oh my gosh. So I was thinking through this, and like, I read Beowulf, I read Dracula and Frankenstein and The Great Gatsby, To Kill a Mockingbird. We read Macbeth and Romeo and Juliet, 1984, I believe. And we also read The Scarlet Letter, which is where I wrote my first fan fiction. One of our assignments after we finished The Scarlet Letter was to write a paper or to write a story about Pearl. And I wrote a story about Pearl. So my fan fiction life continued. I also, we read The Odyssey, and I think we read Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn, I think. So this is hard because I moved halfway through my junior year of high school. And so it's hard for me to like go look up what required reading was because of when I moved, basically. Like, stuff kind of got left by the wayside. But I vividly remember reading The Scarlet Letter, and I remember reading The Great Gatsby. Flowers for Algernon was a book we had to read in high school, or I read of my own volition. I'm not sure. I feel like in high school I was just trying to like figure it out, and I think a lot of, at that time, it was just like not, the YA genre still was not as prolific as it is now. My gosh, if I had the YA books that we have now in high school, I would have been such a big reader. Oh my goodness, I would have loved it. I was reading, I just don't remember what I was reading. Oh, I know that also that I was reading manga in high school. I loved manga. I still love manga, so no big change there. Then I went to college. College is when I feel like I rediscovered reading for myself in a way, and I really started exploring genres. So I was reading high fantasy, sci-fi, horror, you name it. I was trying it out to try and figure out what I liked. And we had this great little bookshop in my college town that the owner was great, and she would recommend me so many good books, and I would just buy tons of books and I would read them. And then I finally got a Kindle in 2009. So that is what really revolutionized my reading journey personally. I also, the iPod being a thing and the ability to take audiobooks with you like that revolutionized my reading journey. So in college, I was trying to read like Game of Thrones. This was like well before the TV show was coming. And I was just really honestly like laying it all out there, trying to find as many genres as I could to try. And I couldn't like narrow in on one thing that I loved. The Kindle definitely brought around my romance reading. That is where I read my first romance, which was Sherilyn Kenyon's Guilty Pleasures, Dark Pleasures, whatever the first book in the Dark Hunters series is, I think. Yeah. I also started reading like these amazing indie books because that's what this brought in, was like Abby Gillen's, Amanda Hocking. Do you guys remember her vampire series? Did you read it? Because I did. Maybe I need to reread those. But I really went wild for books. I also was like on the Kindle boards, so I was able to get lots of book recs there, and I used to do the book club on there where you would like pick with somebody and you would buy somebody else a book or pick a book for them. So I read like the Side Changeling cop books. No, it wasn't the Side Changeling. It was the I read like a book about Men Loving Men cop's story where he was like psychic. I read an orc romance kind of fantasy thing. I honestly, like, looking at my old Kindle books, I'm like, what was I reading? I was reading everything. I also, of course, this conjoined with the fact that libraries and Kindle books were so easy. But yeah, man, Kindle changed the game for me, and the Kindle's honestly why I'm a reader today. So yeah, I just think it's kind of interesting to see where it all started and how it changed so quickly and differently. And I've been through like 3 Kindles now, 3 or 4. Yeah, I had a Kindle Keyboard back in the day, and you know, I was reading so many different things. And I think it's interesting. I think sometimes, you know, coming from a family that reads is definitely beneficial, because, you know, I would watch my mom read, so it kind of modeled reading to me. But I also think that like the Kindle and the availability of digital books and audiobooks has also super upped everyone's ability to get their hands on books these days. Because yeah, I don't think I'd be as big a reader as I am without audiobooks, to be honest with you at this point. Without audiobooks in the library, I truly would not be the reader I am today. And romance. If I had not found my way into romance, I don't know what I'd be reading, because romance books are the best. So that was my quick reading journey discussion. Let me know in the comments how much of your reading you remember from when you were little. And if you're kind of like me and you're like, I don't know what I read, but you know, I do think moving as much as I did meant that I didn't keep a lot of stuff. And that also means that I don't have a ton of record about those items. So yeah, let me know about your reading journey. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you in a few days, and be sure to subscribe and like the video. Bye.
Buy what I want, I don't want it. Do what I like, I don't like it. My life is a mess, screaming with boredom. I don't feel